Good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live 2023. My name's Dale Parrish. I'm the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana. And I want to welcome you all to our broadcast this evening, COS Indiana Live. And without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hello, Ken.
Hello, Dale. How are you?
Just fine, just fine.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah, Ken. We got a little different broadcast tonight, little different take. We're gonna be we'll get into it very, very shortly here. So I won't jump the gun here. But folks, Ken will be co-hosting tonight, and Ken, one of his main responsibilities tonight is to monitor our viewer comments and questions. So if you are viewing tonight and want to ask a question or make a comment, feel free to do so through the chat option. So and Ken will be monitoring those, and we'll do take every step we can to bring on any comments or questions that we feel or that he feels we need to address tonight. So you ready to go on that, Ken?
I'm all set. Watching the board.
All right. Well, let's check the numbers here. And Ken, according to my numbers, this is broadcast number 190. And you have been tagging along for 56 of those.
56.
Oh, yep. Yeah, those numbers keep going up and up. So
you gotta count down to 200 right now.
We're closing in on 200 very quickly here. Yes, we are. Yep, we are. Well, let me just mention briefly our national website, conventionofstates.com. That's where those of you that don't belong to Convention of States here in Indiana, if you want to join, which we hope you do, the place to go is to our national website, conventionofstates.com, and provide the information required there, and you're automatically enrolled as a supporter of Convention of States. And I just might mention that in Indiana now, well, this is a little quiz. I'll do a little quiz. Ken, how many supporters do we have in Indiana right now, would you say?
Now, you jumped on this quiz tonight, and I'm gonna have to throw a challenge flag on this, because you jumped on a question from the Slido account tonight. So
I did. I'm sorry.
You pulled one of those right out of the Slido questions tonight. So now you've given everybody a chance to go ahead and look it up.
All right. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
My apologies. Well,
you might give me another question, like how many people attended our surge?
Okay, how many? That's probably a better question, because we're going to be talking about our surge day, and we're going to be reviewing that tonight. So how many people did we have attend? Do you know?
I don't think we ever have an exact count, but the closest number I heard for the March 8th surge was around 60.
That's I've heard 60, 65. I've heard different numbers like that,
somewhere
which is better than what we had last year, right?
Oh yeah.
Definite improvement. We were hoping to get 100 people there, but I think next year we'll be able to do it, because we've got some good ideas for next year. And again, as a matter of fact, folks, that's our topic tonight, and we're going to be bringing on another guest to join Ken and I, and we're going to review the surge day. So that's our topic tonight. But anyway, we'll get to that very shortly. But in addition to the national website, conventionofstates.com, just wanted to mention that our next roundtable broadcast is next Monday, the 27th. We always dedicate the fourth Monday of every month to a roundtable discussion, and that is what we're going to do next Monday. We'll talk a little bit more about that very shortly here. All right. I just also want to mention that we now we do offer podcasts. We offer 2 podcasts. Started these a couple months ago, and one of the podcasts is we take the audio portion of this roundtable panel discussion that's coming up next week. We take the audio portion of that broadcast and offer that in a podcast format. And then the other podcast that we do is called COS Indiana Live Voices. And on that podcast, we feature one of our outstanding and dynamic volunteers here in the state of Indiana. And Ken, I hope this is not one of the quiz questions tonight, but do you know who the next guest is going to be that we're going to feature on COS Indiana Live Voices?
Well, that's not on the question for Slido tonight. So that's a legitimate question, Dale. And if I didn't know the answer to this, I would probably say that I probably wouldn't make number 57 appearance on the next COS live show, because it's supposed to be me, I think.
It's going to be you. That's
Yep.
right. Ken Kashuba. Yep. And so I'm going to interview him by myself for a full hour, and we're going to dig into him and find out some secrets about him, I think.
We'll save the best for last.
All right. So anyway, we'll try and get that done maybe sometime this week, but we'll see how that goes. We've got 6 of them out there now, right? On the voices.
Yep. Six voices podcasts out there, and
okay. All right.
And still the leading or the most listened to one is still the first one we did.
Is that right?
Stock.
Really?
Yep.
Dan Stock. Okay. Well, it was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yep. It took us 3 tries, but we did finally get it done with Dan, and it was a good one. Yep. So I forgot to mention those podcasts can be found on Spotify.com. And they're available on some other platforms, but the main one that we utilize is Spotify.com.
Right.
All right. Well, Ken, our theme this year has been, what activism can I take in Convention of States? Last year when we started this theme, we thought it would only last a couple months, but it just goes on and on and on, because that is what Convention of States is really about, is self-governance and activism. So that continues to be our theme. Okay.
Yep.
Tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to be reviewing, just to give you kind of an idea what to expect tonight. We're going to review our Surge Day from March 8th, earlier this month. And we're going to be bringing on our state grassroots coordinator, Dale Tipton. And Dale's going to help us do that review. And I will give you a little teaser right now. Ken Kashuba has created a great video of the event. And I think, Ken, what we'll just, when we get to that part in the broadcast tonight, we'll just kick it off with that video. And then you and Dale and I will talk about our experiences at the Surge Day, and might, if we have time, we'll mention some things that we've already talked about with regard to making it even better next year. So
sounds good. Good.
That should be a good segment. So that'll be the first segment. Then Ken, why don't you tell everyone about the next segment called Raise Your Voice?
Yeah, raise your voice. We have 3 questions tonight. No quiz, but 3 questions. I think they're ones that are good, especially I think if you're fairly new to Convention of States. If you're one of our newer people coming on, just some good questions that I think are good to know. And as usual, we do it with our Slido presentation, which I'll go ahead and share that screen now so people can get their smartphones out and be able to go ahead and grab this barcode when I get it up. And it should be coming up right about now so that you can see that. And go ahead and get your smartphones, grab that QR code, and you'll be in and ready to go when the questions are there to start. And as usual, if you're on anything else but a smartphone, you can go to slido.com, slido.com. And the number for tonight's quiz questions are number 3056596. And again, that QR code will be available when we start the Slido questions as well. So if you still have to locate your phone, you got time to do it, and can still log in when we get ready to kick it off. So,
all right,
I'll stop sharing that.
Okay,
get back to the screen.
Might mention here that well, I'll go ahead and mention it now. If any viewer tonight has a question that comes up or a comment after the broadcast tonight, feel free to email us at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Ken and I check for these emails every day, so we're constantly looking at that. So feel free to drop us an email. Well, I wanted to also mention, Ken, about a new segment that we introduced officially last Monday on our broadcast, and that's a new segment called Soapbox. And this is literally for anyone that has a particular topic they want to discuss or rant about. You know how the old politician that gets up on the soapbox and talks to the people standing around. That's kind of what this is supposed to be like. So I just want to go ahead and mention that. Now, tonight's not a soapbox night, but that could be a segment that you will see as a viewer in the near future.
Right.
More and more of that.
Yeah, I thought our first one kicked off with Gary Harbaugh was a great one. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good one. It was a very good one. Well, Ken, let's bring on Dale, and let's talk to him about okay, Dale, I thought I had you muted there, but I think you're unmuted now.
Greetings,
Hi, Dale.
gentlemen.
Yeah.
Hello,
hi.
Dale.
This is Dale Tipton. Dale is our state grassroots coordinator. And we thought we'd bring Dale on and have a little discussion on the Surge Day, which was on March 8th, just a couple weeks ago. So thought it was a great day. And let's kick things off here with a video that Ken has put together for us. And now I'm gonna try and give this a full screen. So the three of us are not going away. We're still here, but you won't be able to see us. All right. Let's give it a shot here. To talk to us. Always a pleasure to hear him speaking. But just before Dan comes on, I wanted to make a presentation every month. Well, just about every month, we try to recognize one of our leadership individuals that has done an outstanding job. You know, one of those people that goes above and got quite a few of those. So we try to recognize those individuals each month, if at all possible. And we do that through the presentation of what we call a Patriot Pin. If this is a national pin that our national organization authorized for us to do, for us to use. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to present our selection for the Patriot Pin for the month of March. And it goes to District Captain Chris Takakis.
Well,
Chris, congratulations. Well, I'll let you just say a few.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, you want to get a picture?
Well, thank you, I guess would be the first appropriate thing to say. I really appreciate this, and this means a lot. Coming from National and my peers and so forth, I'm very excited. I'm a new active member at COS. I first signed on in September. Became a district captain October. So I got through my studying right away and wanted to get to work. And I'm up in Northwest Indiana in Maryville, and that's a tough nut to crack. But guess what? We're putting some cracks in that nut already. And so there's a lot of us up there working hard like the rest of you, and we're going to make a difference, okay? Now and in the future. So I really appreciate this award, and I will certainly do everything I can to continue to be worthy of it. Thank you very much.
I think everybody here is pretty much aware that right now our legislators are besieged on a daily basis by lobbyists and beholden to campaign cash, and that our opinions are becoming less and less heard simply because of a system that makes us unhearable. And so in the middle of summer, I started beating the Convention of States Organization, begging, cajoling, that we become the first member of a coalition of different groups who would be pushing for a way to fix our legislators so they could not dodge debate. And I think it's important for us to understand, when we see a mediocre or lousy bill get passed, it's not that a good one never got proposed. It's just that that good bill was stifled and never got its debate and never got its vote, so that we could never actually tell what the positions of our legislators were. This is all determined by rules of the House and the Senate, which give great concentrated power to the Speaker, who can farm it out to a committee chairman and make sure that those things never get through. And that means that those people become targets of these lobbyists, who can then frighten them or bribe them, whether it's carrots or sticks, into representing their interests instead of the constituencies that they represent. So to that end, I'm happy to say Convention of States just approved this motion to become a founding member. This has actually grown to the CCA now has 8 member organizations. It is growing quickly. And what we're proposing is to change the rules of the chamber so that people can no longer hide from the responsibilities they have to represent their constituencies. We have a lot of education due, because most people are not aware how the rules work. They don't know what first, second, and third reading is. For those of you who don't, whenever a bill gets filed, it's required by the Constitution of Indiana to have 3 readings. The first one, at which it gets assigned to a committee. That committee chairman then may, if he wants to, give it a hearing. At that hearing, it can be amended, and then it goes to second reading, which is where the entire chamber can choose to amend it. And if they do or don't choose to amend it, if it survives that vote, then it goes to a third reading, where it has to be voted yes or no without any further amendments. Anytime in that process, a procedural objection can be made in the chamber, which can keep that debate from occurring. And that procedural objection right now is decided by the leader of the chamber or the chairman of the committee. So these 2 people, the committee chairman and the leader of the chamber, can keep any good bill from being debated. The 3 rules changes we want to start with to make a legislature so that it's more accountable. We want to make it so that committee chairmen are chosen by the committee, not by the Speaker of the chamber, the leader of the chamber. That way their power is beholden to a group of people, not to one man. We want to make it so that all procedural objections to stop debate and voting on a particular motion require an immediate vote of the chamber. That way no legislator can hide from the fact that he chose to kill a good bill and kept it from being discussed. And lastly, we want to make it so that there are creations of what are called discharge petitions, so that when a legislator files a bill, he also files a discharge petition that, when signed by 40% of the committee or 40% of the entire chamber, forces that bill to have a hearing whether the committee chairman wants it to have a hearing or not. And in that way, we can actually overcome the power of a recalcitrant committee chairman, and we can also hold accountable every legislator who does not sign that discharge petition and therefore shows his position on any bill. And in that way, they can be held accountable.
Well, I thought that was very good.
It was a great day.
Yeah, yeah. Good job, Ken.
Thank you.
Ken does some excellent work.
Did you like that, Dale?
I did, especially the music. I don't know where Ken finds all that music, but that's really cool stuff.
It was, yes.
Sometimes that takes the longest part of it, trying to find the good music to work with it.
I bet. Well, I know one of our main objectives that day, of course, was we were at the state capitol and our legislature's in session. So our state representatives and our state senators should be there that day. So one of our main objectives was to try and meet with our legislators that day. And I think if I'm correct, all three of us managed to meet with our state rep and state senator, right?
Right.
Yep.
And I know in my case, my state senator was, and that was the lady that I was talking to in the video there toward the end, Senator Liz Brown. She actually, I wasn't able to get an appointment with her, but I made it known to her office that we were having that surge day and that hoped that maybe I would get to see her. And she actually came down to where we were located and sought me out. So I was very, very impressed with that. So I had a good conversation with her. And then my state rep is a new legislator. And he's from an opposing party. And so I got to meet him for the first time and talk to him and tell him about convention of states. So I had a good meeting with him. So I'm very, very pleased. So Dale, did you get to meet with your legislators?
I did. I met with my state senator first. This is my second meeting with him. I got to see him last year. I caught him, actually, he was en route to a meeting, and I just basically met him with a couple of other people outside of his meeting room. I think he was going to an environmental affairs committee meeting. So we spent a few minutes together and talked, and we talked about a follow-up meeting, and when we could get together. I found out that he did not have a district office in his home district. He just simply operates out of his home. And so we talked about catching him at Starbucks or something, and I told him I'd be willing to buy him a cup if he wanted to listen to me a little longer. And so he was cool with that.
A bribe, yeah.
There you go. So he graduated from the same high school that my kids went to. So there was some commonality there, and he's uncommitted at this point, due to I think the way he phrased it was he hadn't really studied the matter in detail enough to form a solid opinion. So he's uncommitted.
Okay.
And then later on, I had the opportunity to meet with my my district representative, who I had not met before, and she actually came down and located me first. And I asked her where she'd be the most comfortable meeting, and so she actually walked me back to her office, back into the little cubicle area. And another gentleman from the area joined us, and we spent probably 20 minutes with her and talked about things. And the only thing she knew about convention of states, and she's uncommitted as well, but she had heard some of the myths about runaway conventions and some of those kind of things. And so she had a note of concern in her voice whenever we first started talking. And so after I kind of laid out a few facts, she said that she felt much better about it. And I presented both of them with a folder that had one of our pocket guides in it and a pocket constitution and some other pertinent, information that they could study up on, or maybe ask their legislative representative to read it if they didn't have time. But it was really good. And I came away from the whole experience thinking, initially, before I got into convention of states, I guess I was one of those people that put these folks, our elected representatives, senators, kind of on a pedestal. And they seemed kind of unapproachable to me. And during the course of my experience here, it has made them much more like any one of the three of us, people you can easily talk to, you can communicate with. Even if we don't agree, we can still share opinions. And as you guys know, there's a lot of people who have not been convention of states advocates in the beginning that changed their mind due to these kind of relationships. So it was very positive.
Well, I think we have a lot of people in convention of states that were exactly like me. Prior to getting into convention of states, I had never talked with a politician. I had never spoken to. I didn't even know who my state representative or state senator was at the time. So this has all been new to me. And you're right. It's the process has enabled me to look upon these people in a much, much different light than I did before. How about you, Ken?
Well, I had some similar ties as to what you guys have done. Last year, I was able to meet with my state senator, or my state senator, Kyle Walker. Was able to go back to his cubby hole and sit across from him, and had a great discussion with Kyle. And I was not able to get any other meetings that last year. Well, this year it was just the opposite. I was able to meet my House representative, Carrie Hamilton, and she's on the Democratic side. Kyle Walker's a Republican. So I was able to go to both sides at this point, or at least experience both sides. And the interesting thing was I had met Carrie once before, but I had met her as somebody who was running for office and not at the time elected. She actually was canvassing in my neighborhood. And she came by and I happened to be out working in the yard when she walked up to up to the bottom of my driveway and introduced herself and told me that she was running. And we ended up having about a 20-minute discussion there at the bottom of my driveway. And I found her interesting. And as a Democratic representative or somebody that was running for a Democratic position, I found her to be open to some of what I had interest at the time. And so I actually voted for her. I did not really have a good feeling about the Republican that was running at the time when she was running for representative. So I ended up voting for her, and this time around, I was able to get a. She had said I had about 15 minutes to see me, and we kind of ended up throwing a curveball at her. It ended up that Marty Wood and Dan Stock and Rhonda, that other lady you saw in the video, ended up tagging along with me. They wanted to go along because Dan wanted to have at least an opportunity to talk a little bit about what he was talking about in the video, and that was the legislative rule changes that he's seeking to get done. So it turned out to be really a pretty interesting conversation. I basically sat down with her and started it off because obviously she agreed to meet with me, and I had listed some of my concerns, and my main concern going into with her was education. Turns out, she's, like all of our representatives, they're there part-time. They're not there, 12 months out of the year.
Right.
And she's a mom and has a son. Matter of fact, her son goes to high school just down the street from me a little ways. So it was easy really to get talking about education. And the thing of it was, she had, when I mentioned my concern, was the fact that there was, the issues of CRT and some of the things that are going on with in our education schools now, nowadays. And she said, well, we don't have any. There's no CRT being done in our schools in Indiana. And so it was an easy enough to turn around just to tell her that what you need to look into is the fact they don't call it CRT. They call it all these other types of programs. And of course, this was good to have Rhonda and a few of those people around because they were able to actually show her some of the different names that they use in these programs to actually deceive people that it's not CRT, but they call it just something slightly different to make it to get these programs going in our schools. And so she said, well, I need to look into this a little further. So that was a good starting point. And of course, Rhonda had some things which led into the pornography and some of the other things that has become readily accessible to even our grade school students in the libraries and so on. And she was obviously taken back a little bit when she looked at Rhonda had actually had some samples of this. And again, she said, my boys have never said anything about this. And I said, well, they might not have. I said, and it might, it is being introduced in even the lower grades. So, and then Marty was able to talk about how he even had success in having it moved in the Hamilton County Public Library from the section where they could see it off to where it really belongs. Because we really wanted to tell her that we're there we're not for censorship, but we're for common sense and basically putting things where they should be and some of the things that should not be in a classroom. So it really turned out to be an interesting session. We probably went a little longer than her 15 minutes, but I think one of the things that we kind of disagreed on a little bit after Dr. Dan was able to go through the legislature rules and the things that we're looking to have changed there. And her mindset was that the biggest problem she saw to everything was gerrymandering. That was she kept going back to gerrymandering and how, the districts are redrawn and things. And she sees that as the biggest problem. And so it was really good to have Dr. in there to say, this is the real problem here. You've got a chairperson that basically can eliminate good bills. And you as part of the group should have more say. So it was interesting. It turned out to be a good session.
Good. Well, guys, I know we've all already been thinking about how we're going to make this even bigger and better next year. We're going to really strive to hit that 100 mark next year. And I know we've been talking about coming up with ideas on how we can improve things next year. So I think we will definitely have a better and even a smoother session next year. So
Before you get into that, Dale, I want to go ahead and throw up a comment that was made. It goes back to what Dale's position was, and this is from one of our somebody that was at the surge with us, our own Susan Gervais. She was just saying she was agreeing with Dale that her senator and rep were much more approachable than she thought they would be. So
yes,
I think people find out that they're just ordinary people.
Yeah. Yep. Susan's one of our region captains, and was good to see her. She was there with her husband that day, and that was a bit of a trip for them. Well, you too, Dale, right? You're up in the South Bend area, so
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a trip down to the.
You're looking at about 3 hours from the region.
Yeah. Okay, well, guys, I think that'll wrap it up for this first segment on good video, Ken, and let's we will keep working now to try and make this a bigger and better Surge Day in 2024. So, Ken, I'm going to while we move to the next segment here, let's inject a little John's Journal here real quick, okay?
Good time for that, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dale. Have a good day.
You bet. Thank you.
We'll see you, Dale.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana. You know, it's been said that I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness. And I'm saying the same thing today. Darkness flees in the face of light. Darkness will retreat. It has no choice in the presence of light. And so rather than just cursing the darkness all the time, oh, it's so bad out there, things are going to hell in a handbasket, things are looking bleak, rather than that kind of an attitude in life, I want to have the attitude that says, let's light a candle. I'd rather light a single candle than to curse the darkness, because darkness will retreat. It has no choice in the presence of light.
Sorry, had myself muted. I said another good message from John, as usual.
Yes, he always seems to be right on cue.
Yes, he does. All right, Ken, let's go with and get going here with Raise Your Voice.
I think we can do that.
It's time for Raise Your Voice, the segment that features you. Scan the code and join the fun. It's your turn to be heard.
Well, as Marengo said, it's your turn to have your voice heard. So we are going to go ahead and get our screen set up here so we can share the screen for Slido tonight. And you can get your smartphones out and get ready to participate. As we bring in the code one more time, you can go ahead and grab the QR code. And it should be showing right about now for you. And you can go ahead and pull that QR code or log into Slido.com at Slido.com, number 3056 596. And that will get you all plugged in and ready to go. And I think we have three questions tonight that are kind of on the educational side, I think. We are taking a hiatus from the quiz this week. Got to get a few more podcasts out there so that we can get people cued in on our quizzes and our podcasts. So with that, we'll go ahead and pull up our first question for the night. And it is one that is talking about supporters. And again, this was something that Dale had brought up early on. But we have not exact numbers in here, but these are probably just as close as can be. So tonight's question, number one, is how many supporters do we have in Indiana? What do you think? How many people do you think actually support COS, Convention of States, here in Indiana? We've been around for a while, and right now 67,000 is jumped off the board as the front runner. We'll see if anybody disagrees or thinks it's different. But it's is it 67? Is it 45? Is it 28? Or is it 57,000? We are a grown group, and looks like pretty much people are sold on 67,000, Dale.
Yeah, that looks like it's pretty solid. I just want to mention, that about, let's see, this is 2023. So about 7 years ago, we had officially a number of supporters in Indiana was 14,000. I remember that number.
Wow.
Yes. And so
14,
we have
000.
grown tremendously, and yes, 67,000 is the correct number. That is the correct number.
That's really some growth, and really in 4 or 5 years, that's a pretty good number, and it does help to have that kind of support when you're down at the State House and you're talking to your representative.
Yes, and and this growth has come about through a number of people here in the state, as well as our national effort. We have a lot of supporters, endorsers, celebrity endorsements. So our national group has played a big role in this growth as well. So I know we've done a great job here in the state ourselves, but I must admit that national has played a role in this as well too. So,
do you know the latest count nationwide, Dale?
Nationwide, the last number I saw was just under 5.5 million. Is the last
under
number
5.5 million.
Just under 5.5 million. Yes.
Well, those that are viewing tonight, mark that down. That might end up being another question on Slido at some point. But that's quite a number represented there.
It is.
Okay, we're going to move on to our second question tonight, and that is, how many states must pass our resolution calling for a convention of states? Is it 38, 37, 28, 34? How many states must pass our resolution calling for a convention of states? So I know we had a different question that was kind of in the same line last week, but this is the other side of it. So we'll see what people think on this one. Well, the people are just too smart tonight. It looks like, we got 50-50 now. Okay, so we're talking about 34 and 38. So I think those two numbers get confused a lot, Dale, and I think that's
they do. Yeah,
kind of why we brought this up tonight, so that people that maybe are on the newer side can understand the difference between the two numbers.
Yes.
And this one is calling for a convention of states, so it looks like people have corrected it now. It is 34.
Yes.
38 was what we used in the question last week, and that's for the second half of that that needs to be done. But just to call the convention, we need 34 states.
Right. 38 states would be required to ratify any proposed amendment that would come out of the convention.
Right.
But that's ratification. But 34 is what's required to call the convention. Now, I don't want to get ahead of you here. Is next question, how many states have passed the resolution?
No, but it's the next question is just as important, I think.
All right. I'll hold my tongue. Okay.
All right. Is it possible that legislature could rescind our past state status here in Indiana?
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, no, or not sure. Is it possible that legislature could rescind our past states? Could we lose our past state status? That's what I'm saying. That's what the question is. Right now, people have jumped off on yes. Don't know if we have any other people that are not sure or leaning towards no. Is it a done deal once we have it passed? Looks like people were pretty positive tonight, Dale. I don't think we've had a whole lot of disagreement out here tonight.
Nope.
No. And the answer is yes. It is possible we could lose our past state status, and that's why we have to continue to work as a past state.
That's right. That's right.
We have to continue to work. So that's pretty much it. Looks like people were pretty much on board tonight and on top of things. So a little bit of education going on, but I think for the most part, Dale, we were able to hopefully bring out a couple of maybe educate a few people out there as to what needs to be done.
Yeah. Good.
What's happened. Yep.
Good one.
So,
well, Ken, once again now, let me go ahead and bring up the email address again for any of those viewers that would like to make a comment or ask a question after the broadcast tonight. Feel free to send us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com, and we'll definitely reply to you. So, Ken, let's talk about next Monday evening is our roundtable, where fourth Monday of every month we devote the format to a roundtable discussion. And this month, the topic is, I hope I have this right, government underreach, a border in crisis. Now, I have no idea what that means. Do you know what that means, Ken?
Not really. I don't hear the term underreach used very often. So, not even in our famous March Madness that's going on right now. I don't even hear them talking about underreach the basket. I mean, at this point, so it's not a term I hear very often. But I certainly understand. I think when you're talking about the border crisis, I think it might have something to do with some of the staggering statistics that I think we are all becoming well too aware of, and in some case a little numb to.
Yes. So anyway, I think that ought to be a good discussion, and we've already got some things lined up to talk about on that night. So I think that should be a good one. You'll want to tune in for that. Government underreach, a border in crisis. All right. Well, Ken, I just want to mention one more time about our podcast that we have available. So this roundtable coming up next Monday, we will take the audio portion of that roundtable and we'll offer that up. Then the following week, we'll offer that up in the form of a podcast. So in case you missed the broadcast, you'll be able to listen to the audio portion as a podcast, and that seems to work. That seems to work pretty good, I think, Ken, for a person that actually misses the broadcast. They can listen to the audio portion, and that works very well.
Yeah, it's a good format to have for those that don't get to see it.
Yeah. So and of course then the COS Indiana Live Voices. These both of these podcasts once again can be found on Spotify.com.
Spotify.
What are some other platforms that you're seeing us on, Ken? You mentioned
Google Podcasts. I find it listed on Google Podcast. I find it when I do a search on Stitcher as another popular podcast platform.
Okay.
And hopefully, I think there's a certain amount of listens or that have to be recorded before Apple will pick it up, I think. But
Is it okay?
so that's got to be one of our goals, is to get on Apple as far as Apple searches are going. But pretty much any other search for podcasts, it'll pop up.
Okay, good. All right, good. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
Well, Ken, let's wrap it up. We're wrapping up a little early tonight, which is okay.
Yep.
So we always like to close out our broadcast on the acronym GOTC, which means get off the couch. And folks, if you're like so many of us in Convention of States, and I kind of mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, that so many of us, were never involved in politics or government or so many. I hear this said so many times. I always watched the news. I always tried to stay on top of what was happening in the country, but I never took any action. I never called anyone or talked to anyone. So it's called get off the couch and get involved. And that's what we're all about, is self-governance. Whatever level, state, federal, state, county, city, neighborhood, whatever level suits your needs and your desire. We just encourage you to. Actually, that's a responsibility, I think, Ken, isn't it? That
it certainly is, Dale. Yep.
And as a citizen of this country, is to participate in your government.
In your government, yeah. I think, and we've all done our job voting, and I think we all got to the point where, well, I need to do something more, because obviously we're falling short in a lot of areas. Even when you're doing due diligence there and taking care of your voting business, I think we all have found that we wanted to do something more and actually see more movement and more results from what you're doing.
Yeah. And I hear this said many times, Ken, and I truly believe it. We are saving the country. We are saving the country.
We're definitely at a crossroads, Dale. I believe that wholeheartedly. We're at a crossroads where if we do nothing, if you do nothing, you'll wake up one day and wonder how you got there, and then you don't go back. You don't go back from there.
Yeah, can't go back.
I think we've heard that from so many people that have come from different countries that experienced that, and I think those people turn out to be some of the people that are on the front lines of this, because they know what'll happen if we let this go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, Ken. Thank you very much for everything tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
Once again, a great video that you did on our Surge Day.
No, they're always fun to do.
We'll get that circulated so that everybody gets a chance to see that. So, good night, everyone. Ken, you have a good evening.
Thank you. You too, Dale. Good night.
Good night.